How many toys are in this film?
The number of characters of the movie is particularly high.
I don't even know what the final count was.
How many? No, because there's so many, right?
I mean, they're definitely over 100.
150 plus characters in it?
I think it's over 200 characters.
1,297 toys in this film. No, I have no idea.
New toys!
Well, there's some funny challenges I didn't expect. I thought we just open up the box and there's Buzz, okay, and there's Woody, and you would make the movie. But we had to rebuild all the characters. The technology has changed, grown, evolved since Toy Story 2. So we're rebuilding Buzz and Woody. I didn't think we didn't have to do that.
We went into the old models because we still had them, and we examined them like doing archaeology in a way. We'd go into the old shading code and see Eben Osby's name, Bill Reeves, Ed Catmull, people whose papers we used to read in university. And when you have to recreate them, you realize how much craftsmanship really went into it. We didn't have to do a lot for Toy Story 3. We had to just kind of be true to what was already there.
When we saw the first animation test and when we saw the first teaser, where everybody said, oh my God, they're back again, they're back live again.
Didn't I tell you it looked great, huh? Oh, Buzz, where the heck have you been?
We met in the screening room with John Lasseter and Lee Unkrich to figure out what exactly we wanted to make sure we kept about old Buzz and sort of changed subtly for new Buzz. Old Buzz's brows have 3 controls each. Our new brows that we've done for the past few films, each brow has about 20 to 25 controls. So we actually chopped out a lot of the controls that we would ordinarily put into a human and limited it to a much smaller subset so that it was closer to what we had on classic Buzz.
Estoy rodeado por criaturas extrañas y desconozco.
There's a particular moment in Toy Story 3 where Buzz is Spanish Buzz.
My name is Carlos Baena. I'm an animator on Toy Story 3. And I was mostly responsible for animating Buzz in his Spanish mode. One of the things in Buzz, when he's in Spanish mode, that I've been playing with a lot is doing things that are unexpected.
¿Han visto mi nave espacial?
His attitude drives from flamenco dancers, where everything is very powerful.
We looked at a lot of video of bullfighters and Latin ballroom dancing. Carlos went off on his own.
I try a lot of different things. I shot a bunch of reference by myself. I'll draw it as a roadmap.
And he put together this animation test. Everybody loved it, and in a moment we knew who Spanish Buzz was. When the toys donate themselves to Sunnyside, they have a vision of what it's going to be. I always described it as being like a Boca Raton retirement home. Like they're just gonna live their lives forever and be happy. And it's fun to then see the rug get pulled out from under them and have it turn out to be not such a great place.
Lotso's gang, they're bad guys. You know, really, they're a gang.
They need to be the heavies, so they can't feel dinky. They need to be strong.
Each character in that gang had to have a purpose.
So you've got Stretch, the octopus, and she can scuttle up walls and go across the ceiling.
Big Baby is this big tattooed thug.
Chunk. He's not very smart, but it's all about muscle.
Twitch, action figure, bug, mutant, muscle guy.
Ken has the body we all wish we had.
Lasso's in charge because he's the smartest in the group.
You lost, little doggy?
Lotso is this plush toy, which is a stuffed animal. Furry, stuff with material. He's a little bit older.
You could tell this thing's been slobbered on. It's been kicked, pulled, tugged, covered with a blanket.
We knew that in the final film, we wanted Lotso to be believably a plush figure. We wanted to have a sense of his construction. So we brought in a toy designer, somebody who had worked specifically with plush toys.
I brought a bunch of stuff to show you as far as materials, yeah. We would think in terms of extraordinarily simple shapes.
We gave him the model and said, where would you cut the pieces of fabric to be able to stitch this together? And so he drew on our sculpt, and that's exactly how we built him.
We had a series of plush Lotsos made, and those early plush prototypes were very important for us because they helped inform the further design of him. But it was also great for the animators.
So when he walks, you want to see these wrinkles. It's weird because a soft plush bear doesn't weigh much, but you want him to feel like someone he's got a cane, he's got a little weight to him.
If you start at the bottom, pay your dues, life here can be a dream come true.
What was interesting to us was analyzing the reasons why he was the way he was. And when we came up with this notion of a toy being lost and then going through all these obstacles to make his way back home only to discover that he had just been callously replaced, it felt very toy-like. I mean, it's important, if you're going to be in this world of toys, you want to give the toys problems that aren't human problems. You want them to be toy problems.
She don't love you no more. Now come on!
It's always awesome when you see a character being made. You're working on them and you kind of have an idea of what they look like. But when someone else takes them, they have their own perception. And that's the beauty of it.
It was a great responsibility. I knew that there were going to be really high expectations for this film, and I didn't want to disappoint anybody. And at the same time, I knew I was also creating new characters that were going to become part of this storied universe.
Just the way you're getting these kind of creases in here.
It was really fulfilling to work on characters on Toy Story 3 and add to the legacy of Toy Story 1 and 2.
They're fantastic.
Oh, I'm glad you like them.
Yeah,
That's it?
I love them.
I think from the very first time we met Buzz and Woody in the first Toy Story, everyone wanted to go somewhere with them.
We talked about how to get the Toy Story toys into the Disney theme parks.
Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters was one of the first projects that involved the Toy Story characters.
You spin around 360 degrees and you blast at, enemy aliens. So it's just great fun.
When we were starting to think about a new interactive attraction for Disney's California Adventure, we came up with Toy Story Mania. Toy Story Mania began as an idea of playing traditional Midway games with the Toy Story characters. So we picked from the Midway Games series the typical games, and we wanted it to feel like a three-dimensional digital real world.
There was an opportunity in the second park, the studio park in Paris, that they wanted to do a new kind of land. So the idea came out, what if it was like Andy was playing with his toys in his backyard?
It was something that would appeal to guests of all ages, to a very broad audience. It was colorful, it was kinetic, it alters your perception of scale, and it was a very immersive environment that we thought would work really well for Hong Kong as well.
There are a lot of steps that take us from the initial concept all the way to opening day. We begin with sketches, begin to build scale models, animation models, and small-scale maquettes, and then we built them in full-size.
And then we did what's called a SketchUp model, which is a 3D computer model, and that helps us as we start to go through the land, and it gives us the perspective from our point of view. Especially in a land like Toy Story where everything is over scale, understanding the composition and how those scales play to human size really helps us get into those environments.
From the time we began clearing the site, it's 18 to 20 months of in-field construction before we're ready to open the park. Buzz Lightyear greets you at the front of the land, and he's 14 feet tall. And on the blocks, you can literally walk under him.
Everything from the landscaping, we have grasses and bamboos that also helps to support that shift in scale. All of the elements, the rides, the character icons or photo opportunities are all oversized, so as soon as you walk into that land, you feel like you're the size of a toy.
So we took a look at all these different cool ride systems, and we thought, what could they be like, in themed with Toy Story? And we love the Green Army Man. And we thought, oh, wouldn't it be awesome to have, those fantastic parachute rides that you ride up and drop down? They are so much fun. And we thought, this is like perfect because the Army Man and the parachutes are part of the original film.
The guests go through the Quonset hut and through the transportation area before they board onto their parachutes. And we take them up to the top and teach them how to jump.
There's another ride that we love where you ride on this kind of like a caterpillar or something that goes in a circle in Slinky Dog. We just looked at it and said, it is Slinky Dog. So we developed this fantastic ride that Slinky Dog is chasing his tail, and where you sit is in his slinky coils.
The ride itself really goes around in a circle. There's a little bit of a, a wonkiness to it as you're riding, but still very, very family friendly.
Slinky speeds up, slows down, does a few little things like that, and it's really very charming.
I grew up with Hot Wheels, and I just love Hot Wheels, and that's why they're in Toy Story, where Buzz Lightyear lands on the Red Baron and goes through the loops and goes off the jump. So we started looking at what can we do with RC car. And we thought, wow, we can make that car, that vehicle, look like RC. And we said, what if it's going on kind of a Hot Wheels track?
RC Racer is in the middle of all the action in the film, all the thrill, so of course that makes for more of a thrill ride. It's probably the most intense thrill ride of all three in the park.
And the track itself, it is 25 meters tall on either end, and you're launched up the half pipe, and you hang for a few seconds before you come back down. It's terrifying fun. It's the kind of thing where you think, oh my gosh, can I really do that? And once you do, you want to go on it again.
I think it appeals to the kids and all of us then to be a toy and be able to play with the toys in the Toy Story world.
My name is Tia Cratter. I started in 1993 as a digital painter.
My name is Bill Wise. I started December 4th, 1994 as a lighting TD.
If I had to look back to one moment, it would be with my family at Disneyland. And we went through the Small World ride. And the boat got stuck right in front of this big paper-mache hippo. I saw that and I thought, that's what I want to do for a job. I want to paper-mache hippos.
I was really into Star Trek as a child, and this book came out called The Making of Star Trek. Inside they had like blueprints, but they also had a lot of photos of behind the scenes. You'd think that that would puncture the illusion, suspension of disbelief, but I was fascinated by that. It's like, oh, that's how they actually do it.
What's kind of funny is that even though I don't paper-mache hippos, I've come around pretty close. So now I am a shader art director at Pixar, getting to figure out the surfaces of characters and objects in a film.
My name is Sharon Callahan. I came to Pixar in 1994 during the production of Toy Story as an animation scientist or lighting artist or whatever you want to call it.
My name is Ralph Eggleston. I've done production design and art direction and directed a short film.
Everything you do in your life feeds into what you're ultimately going to end up doing in some way, some small way.
During the summer, sometimes a friend and I would make little short live-action films, zombie films. So skip ahead to high school. My parents bought a Super 8 camera, and I would make little clay animation films and hand-drawn little films, and that got me into California Institute of the Arts, studying animation, where I met lots of people.
The first class that I had in art school was a composition and color class, and the instructor was awesome. She basically drilled into us all of the principles of composition and color that I have running through my head all the time now. Every time I look at an image, how colors are always relative to each other, value is relative to each other. Composition is really only choosing where to put things. It's how you want the audience to feel about something.
My first real job in the industry, believe it or not, was with Brad Bird. He gave me the opportunity to work on a film he was working on called Family Dog. I think that was a job where I met everybody that I've worked with ever since. One of those group of people led me to the next job, or to the next job, or to the next job.
When I started, I had a business card that said Tia Cratter, Imperfectionist, because it was my job to mess up everything that was created so perfectly in our films.
My first week here, it was almost like, okay, were you really expecting me? Because I didn't know where I was going to sit. I didn't have a desk. It took till Wednesday until I had a computer, and I had to get my first shot done by Friday. You know, what I remember more than anything is the thrill of the challenges, and that I think that to really do well in this business, you have to get excited about things that seem like that they're going to be impossible.
There was a scene in Sid's room where he burns a hole onto Woody's head. I mean, let's remember, this was 1994, 1995. There were a lot of things that were still hard for us to do. Magnification and refraction. And I mean, we didn't have a ray tracer back then. Should I talk about ray tracers? Is that too techie? You know, we can do so many more complex things now. Hair, simulated cloth, whatever, but you know, there's always hacks.
With every film, it's the same challenge, really. It is, how do you get it on the screen? But it's also the most exciting part. I burned her head the other day with a magnifying glass.
Did you really?
Yeah.
It's so collaborative here that you just can't take credit for doing one thing. It takes a bunch of people.
It's a little bit like herding cats, and what you're trying to do is get everybody to kind of go in the same direction, but you know, still have their independence and still be able to contribute something on their own, but you're trying to get them to all, okay, this is the movie that we're making.
From an art department and a production designer point of view, providing inspiration to all of the crew that follows, and then letting them kind of plus it and take it to another level, offer other ideas that support this basic idea. When I see the shots come together in lighting, after all the modeling and shading and articulation and animation and effects and everything is done, it really is just this magical new thing.
My name's Rick Sayer. I started here in 1987.
My name is Anna Lacasse Jordan, and I started in June of 1997.
For me, technology was a means to creating magic, and anything that felt like that was something that I was interested in.
I basically grew up in Uruguay, and we used to have a half-an-hour special that was cartoons, and I watched it all the time. Then I kind of grew up, and I thought I have to get a real job.
I had a lot of different interests. Making short films, blowing things up. I set my bedroom carpet on fire a number of times.
I tried a bunch of little things, chemical engineering, I tried chemistry, I tried nuclear physics for a little while, and then I heard about computer graphics, and that's great.
I'm Guido Quaroni. I started at Pixar in January '97. I was hired as a generalist at TD, did modeling, rigging, shading. I was born and grew up in Italy. Pretty much it was like, you know, like any other, you know, teenager guy. Actually, I was big in breakdancing. And I didn't even know what a computer really was, and I didn't really know writing a program, software, what that meant. You know, I had no really idea.
My name is Mike Krumhoffner, and I got hired Pixar in 1996, and I started working on Toy Story 2 as a digital sculptor. I remember the exact moment what I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I was opening night of Jurassic Park, and the first time you see the T-Rex break out of its pen and you see it plant its foot, full frame, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. I quit my job 2 weeks later, and I sold everything that I owned so that I could buy the computer and the software. And back then, the computer and software was just ridiculous, it was expensive. And the only way that I could really afford it was I had to move back home with my parents.
There was a computer introduced called Next with graphic capability beyond anything seen before. And it was an expensive computer, and I had to decide between a car and a computer. I choose this, and I'm so happy I did.
My name is Bill Reeves.
My name is Lisa Forsell.
I started at Pixar, started with the group who formed Pixar in September of 1980.
I started at Pixar in January of 1995.
I brought my standard mathematical tables book. It's filled with sines and cosines, log tables, numerical tables like square roots and cube roots, Fourier transforms, Laplace, differential equations, all sorts of calculus, all sorts of stuff.
Honestly, my advice to a young person is high school math. You know, college was great and all, and I learned a lot, but what I used day to day in the first several years of my career was high school algebra, high school geometry,
I always go back to this every once in a while.
This equation, A dot B equals the absolute value of A times the absolute value of B times cosine theta, is incredibly valuable if you're trying to figure out how light, in a mathematical way, if you're trying to figure out how light bounces around in a scene. Stuff like this you learn when you're in 9th, 10th, 11th grade, and it's incredibly useful.
In Toy Story 2, I worked on the roundup props. Actually, that was the first time I started doing shading. Now I'm a shading technical director. So this is my little tool. I didn't bring any high-tech computer or anything like that. It's just a magnifying glass, and it's the basis of what shading is all about.
And shading is the response of a surface to light. So that's black, and so is that, and so is that. So they're all the same color, but they all look different. The specular highlight that you get here and this very elaborate way that the light falls over here on this velvet because of the little fibers sticking up, that's shading.
I don't know if there's a correct English word for it, is perseverance. It's the idea that despite, whatever happened in life, stay on target, continue to follow the passion.
You don't want to get out of school and have a job. You want to get out and have a career. You have to find something that you love to do in life.
Look around you and see what really makes you excited. Explore that.
My name is Ken Schretzman. I'm a film editor on Toy Story 3.
My name is Robert Graham Jones. I'm a film editor here at Pixar. When film editors are working, they call it cutting because it comes out of the tradition of physically cutting film.
The film is made in pieces. It's made in close-ups and wide shots and different angles. Someone has to make the choice of how these pieces go together.
My name is Steve Bloom. I'm an editor.
My name is Jeannie Applegate. I'm an assistant editor at Pixar.
There's a lot of trial and error.
You usually have more than you need to work with, and you kind of have to get down to the real heart of the scene.
Editing is really about storytelling. The goal is to find the story and find the way to tell it in the most efficient and entertaining way possible. The most common question I ask myself when cutting is, do we really need this? Can we say it in a look? Can we do these two things at the same time? What can we throw out? What can we combine? What can we add?
Editorial's like a melting pot. Animation, layout, story, lighting, and we get to put it all together.
I am Torben Bullock. I am a motion picture editor here at Pixar.
My name is Renee Steen. I'm an assistant film editor. It seems like every day, every month, every year, the movie changes, and you see all the different stages, and I don't know, I love that.
There's a certain kind of personality that gravitates towards editorial, that likes data and creativity and technique and technology in this kind of never-ending organized chaos mess.
This isn't the tool I use now. This is a tool I used when I first got excited about making movies. My brother bought this for $6 at a police auction. You wind it up, and then it can shoot movies. And then my brother flicked it up, and we realized this camera can take one frame at a time. And you know what that means? That means you can animate.
My name is Lee Unkrich. My first job at Pixar was as an editor on the original Toy Story, and I am now the director of Toy Story 3. The editor in a live-action film is very reactive. They're reactive to whatever the director happened to catch with the camera on the set. Mistakes and all, the editor needs to take that footage and try to make something great out of it. In animation, we can create kind of a rough draft version of the movie using the storyboards and temporary dialogue and music. And if I, as the editor, want a close-up of a character, I can just talk to the director about it. As a result, the editor has a degree of control over the filmmaking that an editor in live action would never have.
Editorial in general, and Pixar is no exception, is one of the last kind of remaining apprenticeship systems, I think, in the film business.
My first job on film was an apprentice editor on a TV movie.
I was an assistant editor for several editors, most of them out of New York.
I was a PA.
I felt like they taught me everything I needed to know on that job, how to handle film, how to rewind it, how to splice it.
One of the editors I work with is very cerebral. He'll think about making a cut for hours, whereas other editors just try 100 things just very fast.
Well, we use a lot of tools in editorial, but the main thing that I use every day are my notebooks. Every time I learn something new, I immediately write it down. I'm Bradley Furnish, second assistant editor. These are my brains
Editorial's the hub. Everything comes in and out of editorial. Hundreds of thousands of pieces of media. Flying in and out, you have to sort them, organize them, export them, color code them, anything you can. My name is Anna Walitsky. I started at Pixar on Toy Story 2 as a production assistant, and now I'm editing on Toy Story 3.
There's a great reward in starting with pieces and putting it together in a way that takes it to a different level. It requires a certain amount of complete honesty that you can't just hope that something's working. It has to really work, and you have to be able to admit that it's not, so you can continue and fix it.
You know, we remake the film so many times. The very first version of the film, it's temporary.
I know I can put together a good scene, and I put a lot of effort into it, but at the same time, I have to be willing to, once I finish cutting it, be willing to let it go immediately.
So yeah, I think editing is in large part about letting go of things you care deeply about in order to make a better film.